The man admitted to Traoré's office extended his identity card with trembling hands. "My name is Richard Deveraux. I'm a British MI6 agent, and I was here to run an operation against you." Traoré wasn't surprised. "I know," he said calmly. "So why are you confessing?" Deveraux's eyes welled up. "Because I saw your plan, and for the first time in my 15-year career, I realized I wasn't on the right side. The security detail at Burkina Faso's presidential palace had been suspicious of the British cultural attach since his arrival 3 months earlier. Richard Deveraux, officially representing the British Council's West African cultural initiatives, had shown unusual interest in President Ibrahim Traoré's security arrangements and travel schedules. His fluent douala and more, languages rarely studied by European diplomats, raised eyebrows. His frequent visits to regions with strategic mineral deposits seemed incongruous with his cultural mission. Yet Traoré had allowed the surveillance to continue, curious to see what intelligence Deveraux was gathering and for whom. The British hadn't been major players in Burkina Faso since independence, typically deferring to French interests in their former colonies. This new attention suggested something had changed in Western calculations regarding the resource-rich nation. Now, as Deveraux sat across from him in the presidential office, deed card and British diplomatic passport laid bare on the polished mahogany desk between them. Traoré studied the man's face. The cool professionalism of a seasoned intelligence operative had cracked, revealing something rare in the shadowy world of espionage, genuine moral crisis. "You know?" Traoré said, his voice measured and calm. "Did you also know I would come to your office today to confess?" Deveraux shook his head, his composed facade crumbling further. "No. That's what makes this so unprecedented. I'm not being coerced. I wasn't caught. I could have continued my mission, which was initially simple intelligence gathering. Your rise to power concerned London, an unknown military leader with ambiguous international alignments taking control of a country with significant rare earth deposits. Then, when you began nationalizing mining operations and developing independent processing facilities, the mission changed. To what?" Traoré pressed, though he suspected he knew the answer. Deveraux hesitated, then straightened his shoulders. If he was crossing the Rubicon, he would do it with dignity. Destabilization, he said finally. Identifying potential opposition figures, exploitable tribal tensions, points of economic vulnerability, standard regime change playbook. Mr. President, I've run similar operations in 4 countries. Traoré's expression remained impassive, but his eyes hardened slightly. And what changed? 3 days ago, I accessed a secured server at our embassy to upload my weekly assessment. There was a new file in my brief, internal documents from your government outlining the Pan-African Resource Development Initiative. It was presented as intelligence our assets had acquired. He paused, gathering himself. I read the entire proposal, not the public version, but your actual implementation plan. The mineral processing cooperatives owned by local communities, the educational infrastructure to train Burkina engineers, the transparent revenue share, the technology transfer agreements. Deveraux leaned forward, his professional reserve completely abandoned. Now, Mr. President, I've spent my career believing I was promoting stability and democracy. But reading your plan, comparing it to our operation objectives, I realized we're not the good actors here. We're not bringing democracy. We're protecting access to resources. We're not promoting stability. We're ensuring continued economic dependency. Traoré finally allowed a small, knowing smile to cross his face. Asterisk, and this moral epiphany led you to walk into the office of a man you were tasked with removing from power. That seems remarkably naive for an MI6 operative with, what did you say, 15 years of field experience. Deveraux acknowledged the point with a slight nod. It does, doesn't it? Perhaps I should explain that my crisis wasn't merely philosophical. There was something specific in your plan that made continuing my mission impossible. Asterisk, he reached slowly into his jacket, pausing to ensure the security officers, visible through the glass partition, didn't misinterpret the movement and withdrew a folded photograph, placing it carefully on the desk. Asterisk, the image showed a group of children in school uniforms standing proudly beside a small but modern-looking scientific laboratory. Asterisk, the AOL Polytechnique, Ouagadougou, Deveraux said quietly. Asterisk, specifically, the new mineral science program for gifted students from rural communities, the pilot project you launched 6 months ago. Asterisk, Traoré picked up the photograph, recognizing the school he had inaugurated, a cornerstone of his vision to develop indigenous scientific capacity rather than relying on foreign expertise. Asterisk, what about it? Asterisk, the girl in the front row, third from the left. Aisha Kanat. Asterisk, Traoré studied the image more carefully, noting the young girl with bright, intelligent eyes and a confident smile. My daughter, Mr. President. The revelation hung in the air between them. Traoré's eyebrows rose slightly, the first genuine surprise he'd shown during the conversation. Asterisk, not biologically, Deveraux continued. I met her mother, Fatima, during my first deployment here 7 years ago. She was working as a translator for a British mining company. We became close. Asterisk, when she died 3 years later, a preventable illness made fatal by inadequate medical facilities, I took responsibility for Aisha, arranged for her care, her education. Asterisk, while continuing to work for the intelligence service that exploits her country, Traoré observed, though without the sharp judgment Deveraux might have expected. Yes, the admission came with visible shame. Asterisk, I compartmentalized, told myself my work was ultimately beneficial, for stability, for development, the usual justifications we all employ. Asterisk. He gestured to the photograph. Asterisk, when Aisha qualified for your new program, the one creating educational pathways for Burkina children to eventually manage their own resource industries rather than serving as cheap labor for foreign companies. I was proud. Asterisk, but I didn't connect it to my mission. Until I read your full development plan. Asterisk, until I read your plan and realize that the future I want for Aisha education, opportunity, dignity is precisely what my mission is designed to prevent. Asterisk, we don't want Burkina Faso developing independent processing capacity or negotiating fair resource contracts. We want the minerals cheaply extracted and controlled by our corporations. Asterisk, Traoré set the photograph down and leaned back in his chair, studying the man before him. Asterisk, the confession seemed genuine, the moral crisis authentic. But he hadn't survived multiple coup attempts and assassination plots by being naive. A compelling story. Mr. Deveraux. Asterisk, but perhaps you're playing a more sophisticated game, offering a partial confession to gain my trust. Position yourself as an ally. Deveraux nodded, having anticipated the suspicion, a legitimate concern. Which is why I brought this. Asterisk, he reached again into his jacket, this time withdrawing a USB drive. Asterisk, the complete MI6 and 5 Eyes intelligence briefing on Operation Savannah Shield. Asterisk, the coordinated Western effort to maintain control of African strategic resources. Operations in 17 countries, including Burkina Faso. Asset lists, infiltration strategies, economic pressure points, Everything. Traoré made no move to take the drive. Why would you betray your country so completely? Even a crisis of conscience rarely extends to full-scale treason. I'm not betraying my country. Mr. President, I'm betraying a system. A system that perpetuates poverty and extraction under the guise of security and development. Deveraux single quotes. S. gaze was steady now, his initial nervousness replaced by clarity of purpose. As for why? When I saw Aisha's face in that photograph next to your mineral science initiative, I realized I'd been complicit in ensuring that children like her, bright, capable, African children would never control their own resources or determine their own futures. That their role in the global economy would always be subservient to Western interests. He placed the USB drive on the desk beside his diplomatic credentials. I want Aisha to live in a world where Africans determine Africa's future, where Burkina Faso's wealth benefits the Burkinabe people. Your plan offers that possibility. My mission ensures it never happens. The office fell silent as True considered the man and his offering. The intelligence on the drive, if genuine, would be invaluable, revealing the full scope of Western interference, not just in Burkina Faso, but across the continent. Yet accepting it would irrevocably involve him in Vao's betrayal of his service. You understand. True said finally that this decision likely ends your career, possibly your freedom. Western intelligence services aren't known for their forgiveness of defectors. I do and you're prepared to remain in Burkina Faso? To cooperate fully with our security services to verify everything you've disclosed? Yes, Mr. President, though I have one request: protection for Aisha. She knows nothing of my real work. She believes I'm a cultural officer who travels frequently. When this becomes public, and it will, I don't want her to suffer for my decisions. Trey nodded, a first hint of genuine warmth entering his expression. Children should never pay for the sins of those who came before them. That principle applies as much to your daughter as it does to the generations of Africans who've endured the consequences of colonialism and economic exploitation. He pressed a button on his desk, and his chief of security entered immediately. Major Zongo. Deveraux will be our guest at the diplomatic residence. Full security detail, but with appropriate dignity. He's not a prisoner, but he's not to leave the compound without my personal authorization. As the security chief led Vive away, True added, and please send someone to bring Aisha Khanat from the AOL Polytechnique to the residence. Inform her that her father has returned early from his trip and will be staying in Burkina Faso for the foreseeable future.
Others demanded an immediate ethics investigation. The speaker had to call for order multiple times as chaos erupted across the floor. This isn't just political theater. It's the beginning of a collapse of the credibility labor. Built its revival on asterisk, and the timing couldn't be worse, with a general election looming. The party now faces a nightmare scenario: their chief economic spokesperson under investigation, their tax policy in ruins, and their working-class base in revolt, because this scandal isn't abstract. It's personal. Every family who lost an inheritance, every child who watched their parents' modest savings get taxed into dust, every pensioner forced to sell their home just to cover tax bills. Now they know it didn't have to be that way. Reeves made sure of that for herself. She made sure her family wouldn't face the pain she inflicted on millions of others. And now those families want justice. The demands are clear: resignation, prosecution, restitution. Public figures across the spectrum, from trade union leaders to retired judges, are calling for a complete audit of all high-level government officials' financial affairs. If this can happen at the top, one senior civil servant warned, it's happening elsewhere, we need a purge. Asterisk, and that's exactly what could be coming because Reeves' scandal has opened Pandora's box. Already, journalists are probing into the finances of other top ministers. Anonymous tips are flooding whistleblower lines. Asterisk, the question now isn't whether this scandal ends Rachel Reeves' career, that's done. The real question is, who's next? Asterisk, political historians are already comparing the moment to the MP's expenses scandal of 2009, a watershed in British politics that shattered public confidence for years. But many believe this is worse. Asterisk, because this wasn't just about greedy spending or falsified claims. This was about one of the most powerful people in government deliberately engineering a tax system designed to trap the many while protecting the few, and then lying about it. Asterisk, the damage isn't just reputational. It's institutional. If a chancellor can dodge the very taxes she imposes, what faith remains in Parliament's ability to govern fairly? What trust remains in any future fiscal reform? Asterisk, already, international media is seizing the moment. Headlines. In Europe, the US and Australia are portraying Britain as a nation betrayed by its own elites. Editorials in Le Monde, the New York Times, and Der Spiegel are calling the scandal a collapse of moral authority and a warning for democracies worldwide. Asterisk, and back home, the British people aren't just watching, they're acting. Petitions for criminal charges have surpassed 3 million signatures. Legal watchdogs are preparing to file private prosecutions if the Crown Prosecution Service refuses to act. Asterisk, and in communities across the country, people are organizing. They're not waiting for justice. They're demanding it. Because this wasn't just a policy gone wrong. It was a deliberate betrayal. Asterisk, Rachel Reeves didn't stumble into a scandal. She built it. She wrote the rules, shaped the laws, and manipulated the system to serve herself while punishing the very people she claimed to represent. Asterisk, and now, as her empire crumbles, the country is left to pick up the pieces. The financial cost is staggering. The emotional toll even greater. But perhaps the greatest loss of all is trust. Trust in leadership, trust in fairness, trust in democracy itself. Asterisk, and so, as Westminster braces for what comes next, one truth is clear: this isn't the end. It's the beginning of something bigger, a reckoning, a rebellion, a demand for real justice. Asterisk, Rachel Reeves may have thought she could beat the system, but the people just proved her